Okay, I need you guys to get out your bookwork from last class. That was number 95. We've got two things to finish up this week before spring break. So one of those is finishing up the book assignment, which I actually intend for you to do first. I'm not sure why this is not first on the agenda, but this was a longer book assignment, and I mentioned that you did not need to try to finish it up before today, and you did not need to do any homework, assuming that you got a reasonable amount of the way through it. But you should be able to finish that up in class. So first thing I want you to do is go ahead and pick up wherever you left off. And of course, every once in a while, I will jump in and try to help out and take the questions you guys need to take. But all of this stuff does come from the notes, so you might want to lean on your notes a little bit. Then the second thing you need to do before break is the worksheet you picked up this morning, which is 3.3.3.4 worksheet 1. You can think of that as a practice quiz. Again, we won't get to the quiz until after spring break. But it gives you a good idea of what we would ask and how difficult the questions are and stuff like that. So this is, I suspect you'll spend most of class today finishing up the bookwork and then starting the worksheet, and then on Friday finishing up the worksheet. That would be my guess. But these are the last two things for the week, so I'm just trying to get them to you both up front. That way those of you that are trucking along here and getting pretty close to the end of the book assignment can go ahead and try to finish up for the week. So also, both of these do need to be turned in before you guys leave for spring break, so I did put those in Google Classroom. So as you guys finish the bookwork today, you might want to go ahead and turn it in so you don't forget about it. And if you get to the worksheet today, if you finished it, turn it in. Otherwise, you'll need to do that on Friday. So, any questions about the plan for today? Okay, then pick up wherever you left off on the book assignment, and here in just a bit I will start to ask for some questions to help you with. But please do the book assignment before the practice quiz. go ahead and see if there's a few I can help with. Okay, any that you know you need help with?
Can you do 38?
38? Sure. Okay, so for question 38, I guess like all of the questions, personally what I do is I try to think about the notes and the structure of the notes, the order of the notes, and try to go in that order and kind of check things off. And so this does not fit many of those things. In fact, none of the things in your notes will help you start this question, except for one, and that is taking the log of both sides or the natural log of both sides, your choice. And that's okay to do as long as you do it to both sides. The reason why this is going to help you move forward is because now this x plus 1 is an exponent on something you're taking the log of, so the x plus 1 can come down. Natural log of e is just 1, so the left side simplifies pretty quickly. Over here, same thing, exponent on something that you're taking the log of, so the exponent can come down. Now, this one's just a number, so you should distribute it. That's how you're going to get rid of the parentheses. And now it's a little complicated looking because you've got some natural log of 2's in a couple places, but just like solving any basic equation, all your x stuff needs to go to one side. So I'm going to subtract that over. And all your constant stuff needs to go to the other side. So I'm going to subtract that over. And then unfortunately, one of the hardest things for you guys to see is an algebra skill that I know you can all do, but if you can't see to do it on your own, then that is going to hold you back sometimes in calculus. Right here on the left, if this was like 5x minus 3x, I could quickly just combine those and say 2x. But 1x minus a natural log of 2x, I don't know how those combine. But you can say they both have an x, so you can factor out a GCF. So again, I know you can all take a GCF when you're told to do that, but it's important that you can see to do that when nothing else works. And then I'd end up with this answer, which, like many of these answers, looks fairly crazy. I don't immediately have a ton of confidence in this answer. On the test, I believe, quiz test, it'll be no calculator, so you just have to go back and check your arithmetic the best that you could once you finish the other questions. But this is an even question, so the answer is not in the back of the book, and you could potentially have done this question correctly and your answer could look a lot different than mine, especially if you didn't do the natural log of both sides. If you did the log of both sides, your answer is going to look different. This wasn't going to simplify so nicely. So in those situations, you really need to store your answer in for x, try the left side of the equation, try the right side of the equation, make sure that the left side equals the right side. If that value of x makes the left and the right side equal, then you can have full confidence in your answer. But this highlighted part is important. It's not going to come up in many questions, but the questions that need it, there is not a substitute. Nothing else is going to help you get that question started besides that. Okay, any detailed questions about 38 before I move it off? Okay, somebody else got another one ready to go?
Can you do 58?
Sure, 58. Also, not that it matters too much, but I did take number 62 off the assignment. Nothing's really wrong with 62. It kind of starts off the same as this one. I was making sure it's not the same, but it's a little much in the solving part. So the first half of the question is good, and the second half of the question is not good. So I did take off 62 from being a required question. Okay, but 58. So I'm looking at this, and again, mentally in my head, I'm thinking about in the notes. We started off with questions we could do in our head. This certainly doesn't fit that. We switched the forms. This is not exponential form or logarithmic form, so I can't do that. Sometimes we can take the log of both sides, like the last question we did. That would not make sense here. That would make the question harder. Then I think the back of our notes, the very first thing I talked about was sometimes it helps to expand or condense. So since both of these were natural logs, separated with subtraction, you can condense these with division. And now this looks a little bit like a question from section 3.2, where you've got natural log on this side, but also natural log on that side, so that's already balanced. So then we just need to make sure that these two are equal. So multiply your x minus 2 over. That's going to be progress because at least there's no fractions now. Then you've got a quadratic. Quadratics always need to be on one side set equal to 0. You should always try to factor because that's the quickest. Unfortunately, this one doesn't factor. And so like a couple other times on this assignment, if you need to solve a quadratic and factoring doesn't work, you have no option but quadratic formula. So opposite of b, plus or minus b squared, 4, plug in a, plug in c, plug in a again, and then you're left with 9 plus 4, which would be 13. Now, if I was doing a test, I would take both those answers. And I guess we couldn't make it quite this tricky without a calculator, but I believe, so 3 plus the square root of 13 divided by 2 as a decimal is about 4.8. Now remember, when we solve logarithmics, especially this step, when we just set the insides equal to each other, we could be creating extraneous solutions. So 3 plus the square root of 13 over 2 is about 4.8. If I plug in about 4.8 here, here, or here, that's perfectly fine because you can take the log of a positive number. But I'm worried that 3 minus the square root of 13 hold on, I didn't type the first one in right. Okay, it was actually 3.3, but that's fine. Then 3 minus the square root of 13 divided by 2 is actually about negative 0.3, and you cannot plug that in here or here because that would give you log of a negative. So even though quadratic formula gives us two possibilities, one of those possibilities was extraneous. So if you check them both by storing in your calculator, one of them is going to give you a calculator error because it's not going to want to deal with the minus. So the takeaways from this one were sometimes you need to condense, sometimes you need to set the insides equal if both sides are the same type of log, and then solve the quadratic. Okay, so that one's certainly on the harder side. So anyone got a follow-up to that? Any part of that you want me to say again? Okay, so let's do one or two more questions, and then I'll get out of your way for a few more minutes. Anybody else have a couple ready to go? Okay. Then go ahead and try to get a couple more done. I'll reset our timer here and check back in. Alright, it's almost been another 10 minutes, so let me try to help out a couple more times. Other questions you found that I can help with? Okay. And go ahead and keep going. Alright. Try again. Anything else y'all found that I can help with? On the book assignment at least?
Can you do 56?
Sure, 56. Let's see if I've got that. So 56 looks like we would need to start off with some condensing. We've got two natural logs separated with addition, so that means I can condense them with multiplication. And then maybe instead of saying, just go ahead and distribute this. Okay, now it's in logarithmic form. So most of the time it's in logarithmic form, you're going to want to switch it to exponential form. And then, like a ton of these questions, this is a quadratic because the biggest exponent's a 2. And to solve a quadratic, you want everything on one side set equal to 0. You can try to factor this, but because of the c, it's not going to factor. So you need to pick out a, b, and c, and then throw those into the quadratic formula. So that would look like -1 plus or minus square root of 1 minus 4 times 1 times negative e all over 2 times 1. And to clean that up a bit, can't do much, but we can at least say a negative times a negative is positive. 4 times 1 times e would be 4e. So that's really all you could do without a calculator, but I'm suspicious that one of these answers may be extraneous. So remember, extraneous is where if you tried to plug it into the original problem, it doesn't work. So if it makes me take the log of 0 or the log of a negative, I can't keep it. So in my calculator, I'm going to type in the plus version and look at it as a decimal. It's about 1.2. Natural log of 1.2, natural log of 2.2, nothing wrong with that. So I should certainly keep the plus version. And the minus version, I'm thinking it's going to be negative. It is. Negative 2.2. So I could not plug that in here or here because I would be doing the log of a negative. Now again, you can't really, you're not going to see that without a calculator. So, but we do have to make that part of our check. So once again, seems like there's been 2 or 3 today about this. It's not the most common question type, but I'm sure we'll put at least one of these on your test. Condensing so that you can move forward and then solve quadratic. Okay, is that okay?
Yes, thank you.
Anybody else going to ask about 56? Have something specific about it before I move it away? Okay, something else?
54.
54, sure. So unlike the last one, this one does not have anything to condense. However, it is pretty close to being in logarithmic form. If you just divide this 4 over, now it is in the logarithmic form structure. Understood base 10 because they didn't write that. So just like I said on the last question, if it's in logarithmic form, 99% chance what you're supposed to do is switch it to exponential form. So take the log away, switch these two around, and if you know how to do that and you consider to do that, then the last thing would be undoing a -6 with a +6. Okay, is that enough, Noah? Okay. Okay, one or two more. I will check back in once more with y'all, give you one more chance to ask some book questions. Again, if you finish the book assignment, go ahead and start on the worksheet. The front of the worksheet should be very quick, and then that will make what you need to get achieved in class on Friday much easier. There's also a 3-3-3-4 worksheet 2 that I usually have to be an optional assignment, but this year, since we didn't get in this quiz before break, we will do that when we come back from break as a quick review. But still important for you guys to be marking up your assignment that you're working on, because you may want some quick reminders on what you struggled with when you come back from break. Also, I guess before I forget, if you were in the ACTM math contest, they did release the test onto their website, so I always steal that and put it on my website. So if you still have your copy of the test to see what answers you picked, you can now go and compare and see which questions you got right, which questions you got wrong, what the right answers were. Or if you did not participate in the ACTM, but you were interested in what it was like, how difficult it was, then it's out there for you too. So completely optional, but kind of good for you to see if you've never done a math contest before. let me check in one more time. Try to help out a couple more questions. Anything else y'all have found? Sorry? Number 70? Let's see. So 70 wants us to work this one out a couple different ways. So what I would probably do is, I really don't like how there's some log stuff here, some log stuff here, but then there's also this 2. So I would consider maybe adding this over. And the reason why I think that might help is because those are separated with addition, I could condense those with multiplication. X squared plus X. Plus, you okay to there? Okay. And this looks good because now I've got it in logarithmic form, which is usually a good sign. Switch it to exponential form. It's a quadratic, so everything needs to be on one side set equal to 0. Once again, that's not going to factor, which is unfortunate, but throw the numbers into the quadratic formula. And try to simplify. Now that's about all I can do without a calculator, but with a calculator I can make sure that, since there's really 2 answers here, that neither one of these are extraneous. So I'm going to do the plus version that comes from quadratic formula in my calculator and see that it's about 2.3. So plugging in 2.3 here or here is fine. So the plus is not an issue. But I suspect the minus is. The minus version of the answer is about negative 3.3, so I could not plug that in here or here. So the minus version would be extraneous, so we should keep only the plus version. Now actually the directions say to do this second, not first, but this comes out to be about 2.264. the 3 decimal places. The first thing they actually ask you to do is to try to find that answer from a graphical standpoint. So getting you guys to see that the algebraic way is good, that's usually what you need to do, but I will tell you in calculus a lot of times you'll get equations that you just can't solve by hand, or even if you can solve them by hand, it's so time consuming that that's really the wrong process. So it's good for you to know this as well. Graph the left side of the equation as one line, graph the right side of the equation as another line, and when they are at the same place at the same time, that would be the solution. So if you do second trace, go down to intersection, then it will tell you that they're in the same place at the same time at 2.264. 2.264, same thing that I got algebraically. And notice there's not another answer. These 2 never cross again. Like if this was allowed to go to the left, like if the numbers made sense where it could graph it and this could keep going more to the left, then that would be the minus version of quadratic formula. But since that's not possible, that's why it's not an answer, and that's why it doesn't show up on a graph. Okay, I heard one more.
If you have something stored in as x and then you go to graph something, is the x still equal to the value that you started as?
No, it doesn't mess anything up.
Okay.
If it bothers you, like right now my x is something from a few minutes ago, you can always just like store in 0 if you want to, but it doesn't mess anything else up.
Okay.
So now one thing that it does do sometimes, I don't know if you guys know this, but like when I had it calculate this intersection, so right here my calculator thinks x is 0, but if you have it do this trace and have it find one of these things like this that I finished this question with, it actually stores that in for x over what you had something else stored in for x. So, but no, it doesn't matter. Like I probably have something stored in for z or t from before, from months ago, but it doesn't affect anything else in the calculator. Alright, you guys still have about 12 minutes, so if you are not finished with the bookwork, please try to do that and then finish that up for homework at the very least. If not, also chip away at the worksheet. If you are not going to be here on Friday, make sure that you finish both of those and turn those into Google Classroom before you leave for break. And when I see you guys on Friday, I'll make sure that you don't have any more book questions that you just ran out of time on. I'll give you time to do the practice quiz to see what is sticking and what's not, and then help you out with that. And then I will encourage you once again to make some notes for yourself so you can pick up where you left off after spring break. Basically, after spring break, we will review again and then do that 50-point test, and then we will be done with exponentials and logarithmics. We'll move on to a different algebra topic.